Better start the meeting. Here we are. We good? We up?
And
Yeah,
two,
we ain't
one,
doing no
two.
intro music
The place to
at
be.
all. Yep, straight into it. Here
Yeah,
we
the
go.
place to be.
Apollo Hanzo. Welcome.
Apollo in the house.
What is good, everybody? Let me just throw this up over here. This is another one of those moments here. I said that we were going to try to remain consistent with this. Sorry about last week. We both had things come up. And yeah, this will be our Sunday night thing or Sunday afternoon thing here, talking about whatever it is we end up talking about here. And this week, the topic of conversation is appropriately about gear with iamtheoneSUN in the house.
Geared up.
Yeah, so about gas, gear, and let's have a little intervention here, folks, you know, right
Is
after
my
NAM.
name Son or is my name Guillermo? Because we're talking about gear.
So here we go with things. Let me say what's up. Thomas. Welcome. So,
Tomas.
as we closed up NAM this last week, a lot of people are feeling the lackluster amount of equipment being reflected, and then start remembering about last year's NAM and then the NAM before that. And people are just really realizing that, like, NAM isn't the thing that it was before. It's still an event, but it seems to be mostly for us creatives to get together and party and do whatever, more of a social event rather than a music gear event. And we're having these conversations that keep coming up in different spaces. And EA Ski just mentioned it as recent as this morning and then last night too, and was asking an appropriate question like, if you had one piece of gear from 2025, what do you have out there that sounds better than your DAW? What sounds sonically better? And I was just like, my iMac. You know, what piece of gear do you have that sounds sonically better than anything else that you got? Well, you know, there's not really much out there when it comes to sonically sound. There seems to have been a shift in gear after a while to where it has gravitated towards a more flat frequency response and less about the characteristics of whatever gear, and it relies more heavily on the outboard gear and the plugins that we use, which is creating this disconnect, even further disconnect between hardware and software. And then as we're gravitating through this change, and navigating through everything, we start realizing, oh crap, a lot of these software models are trying to reflect and model these pieces of hardware and outboard gear. And so the conversation is coming up a lot more, especially as of recent, because there's less hardware out there, that is sonically sound, and there are more plugins out there. And as we seemingly are teetering towards one versus the other, there's still a lot of us within the space who prefer the hardware, who prefer the hybrid setup and everything. But before we get on this whole conversation, because it's going to be probably a long one, because us nerds over here can't stop talking about this gas conversation. I mean, so much so it is in the space. It's probably going to be a real long one. So I think the best thing to do here at the beginning of this is just kind of reflect our credentials here and our experience with the history with gear, and us personally or professionally, where we stand along the sides of things. And people could, I'll just move backwards basically from the YouTube channel. You guys know out here, I'm out here with the most mini freak content, the same way that we had the most Fantom content, going into this YouTube space. And so those two things exist, but you don't just get a Fantom, you know what I mean? I've been doing music for 30 years. I've had some gear, and a lot of things you guys know about my history that we cycle through gear. We don't keep anything. We use stuff for projects and stuff, and that's just how we do it. However, there's no knock on people who collect gear. A lot of the reasons for that is because of moving around and not having a permanent place. And I was mentioning during our conversation earlier that if there was a more permanent place for my personal life settings, I would probably hold on to a little bit more gear. I would still cycle through, but there was a lot more stuff that I would probably keep around because I would have the space to put it. And I understand people that really take the time to gather up all this gear from these years and collect what they have, especially if they found it useful for a particular project. But with everything, it's been mostly, as far as hardware goes, a few drum machines here and there. We did have that moment working in the recording studio where we were like real bad with recording gear. This is what happens when you get a company credit card and you get to make decisions. But as far as stuff like that goes, nothing that we kept or held on to personally or professionally. But now we're kind of reaching this point within our space of producing these albums and cycling through in mid-cycle. Then we got this NAMM going on, and these conversations just exist. And I am the one son over here. We have these conversations so frequent. We're like, let's just take it online and discuss this stuff. And so if you want to go through a brief history of your time with gear, to wrap it up with me, it's just mostly it's been a MIDI controller and a computer since I would say 2008, 2009, around this time that I started with Logic Pro. Once things got to a point to where sonically I could get what I need to get done within the box and have it sound amazing, I just kept on the ever so affordable option of a decent MIDI controller, outboard gear, decent samples, and whatever you got going, and whatever's coming in and going out being cleaned up with outboard gear and everything like that, just as a portable use type situation. So we've never been married to gear here. So that's our bias as far as the perspective over here at Viral Beats. But I Am the One Son here has a totally different perspective and a different history. Maybe not a Fantom, but a lot more Akai history than we do over here.
That's true. Hey, real quick, before I even get into that, go ahead, Viral, shout everybody out because we got some more folks in here. And if you guys can, hit that like button for my man so that, y'all smack the algorithm for my man Viral.
Yeah. Mozart 555, Trust 101, Tyrone Sellers in the background.
Yeah. What's up, fellas? Good to see all of y'all.
I always appreciate Tyrone because, I get these notices and I'm like, oh, for those who don't know, we have the donation links and do whatever we do here. We're not really here for that, but on the back end, we also have the Cash App and the PayPal going. Tyrone has been a big supporter of the channel, and he's been hitting us quite regular. So I just wanted to give him a shout out and appreciate that before we move forward.
Tyrone Sellers on the big love.
You have the floor, sir.
Oh man, the floor. Okay, so let's. Hey, you guys ready for a little story time here? Because we're gonna take it back a little bit. So once upon a time, long ago, in a little town called New York City.
New York City.
I actually New York City. No, I actually started out in the family restaurant, playing the drums, on the pots and pans. You know what I'm saying? So automatically, I was a drummer, I was a percussionist, and all the sous chefs and all the people working at the restaurant used to just let me sit there when I was like 4 and 5 years old, playing on the pots and pans before they opened the restaurant. Thank God they actually washed the pans again before they opened the restaurant. But which was cool. And then I started getting instruments when I was young. So it's like basically start out violin, viola, cello, that kind of thing. Stand-up bass, trumpet, flute, little bit of saxophone, but I never could really get into it too much. So
I tried that too.
Basic music education of a child, right? But then, what happened is, I started hearing these things, like we were down in the basement, chopping tapes up and making break beats and all this kind of stuff. And I got fascinated with all that. And when the first MPC came out, one of the homies had it. Of course, I couldn't afford it. I was a shorty. But they let me mess around with it a little bit. And there it is. I went from the 60 and just kept going through time with the different MPCs. And I probably have at least 5 or 6 MPCs laying around the house. Some of them I don't even use. They're just like kind of archive, boxes now, stuff that I look at and admire. You know what I mean? But most commonly, I'm on the MPC X and the, MPC Live 2. And maybe later, if Viral wants me to, we'll throw on some beats and just kind of, show you what we do a little bit on the MPC. But yeah, it's mostly MPC. I do use obviously some DAWs here and there or whatever, but most of the time I leave that for the pros. Me, I'm just having some fun. So I mean, I used to rap, I used to produce. It used to be kind of a serious endeavor when I was a young man, but hey, you know what? You gotta sometimes leave that stuff alone. Do you still have to play? Tomas, yes, I do, man. Thank you for asking, man. You got me hyped with that question because my nephew is a mean drummer and percussionist, man, in Colorado. And when I go out to see them, man, me and him be getting it out there. Nice. Straight up getting it. I'll tell you what, next time I go out there to go see my brother and my nephew, I'll play, man, and have them do a video, and then we'll send it to Viral, and he'll rock that joint for y'all.
That's dope.
Because I be getting nice on the drums. I ain't trying to brag or boast, but I'm kind of nice.
So what do you think about the current status of Akai, MPCs, the converter conversation? Yeah, we're just going right into it.
Ooh, are you really? Did you really?
Hey, you know what? Hey, the converter, the Akai conversation is the biggest video that we have here. People are heavily interested, not to piggyback off of that juice, but it's that big of a conversation.
Can we do a little poll? Seriously. Hey, guys, can you guys respond and poll for this one? It's a little verbal poll. How many people use an MPC? That's all I want to know. How many people got MPCs?
Yeah. See,
give us a yay or nay if you own and use an MPC.
It's crazy because I didn't know until after she passed, but Inky the Cat was like real heavy on the MPC. That was her
word.
That was her piece of gear of choice. Was getting down on that. I had no idea that she was so into it. Never even try.
Did you? He never even touched an MPC.
Never even touched an MPC.
Oh man, Thomas, Tyrone. Yes. So look, guys, if you have an MPC, just go ahead and spend the money and send it to Black Lion and go get yourself some converters. I'll just play it.
Well, see, this is the thing about it. And, a lot of people have viewed my content on the Fantom and just they see the contentiousness and think that, the sonics or whatever, dynamics, whatever you want to call it, are part of the reasons for getting rid of it. And while we had our reasons that were kind of related to that, it did say something to us that having that type of gear, a flagship piece, and then having the sonics be so flat frequency that it takes an analog outboard mixer and, combined with the SSL over here in the interface to put those 4K transformers into it, to even bring it up to that level that it should have been. And I was looking at some of the stuff from the previous Fantom as far as the specs go, and it was 24-bit, like everything was everything. And this one was only 16-bit for some reason as far as the export. But even the sound of the outputs was weak in comparison, and it was just weird to go from the Fantom the way that it used to be, because I knew I was familiar with the sonics of how it sounded, to go to what it currently did. Now the hardware is really good. Technologically speaking, there is nothing really that could touch it, but if it doesn't integrate well with the software and there are issues that, staples of sampling are considered, or polyphony, stuff like that would trip you up on stage, those are things that are kind of unacceptable when it comes to a flagship keyboard. And one of the main conversations that EA Ski has had within all this, with the converter stuff, is why do you have a MPC X sound sonically the exact same as an entry level MPC. All across the
Right.
board, they all sound the same. Now, some people say there's a difference with the Key 61 and some even with the One Plus because they kind of had that spec bump in the difference of operating systems, so they run a little bit smoother. But that's not what we're talking about here. You know, if
Yeah.
you pay a
Oh,
premium for a
Sonics.
flagship, whether it be a Kai or a Roland, you expect the basics to at least work or have the sonics exist at a level that we're just not seeing out of these
Yeah,
companies, especially as of recent.
I would agree with that. Really, I would agree that. Yeah. So Tyrone, yeah, you got the X and the Live too. Yes, sir. I also have those. And I think Ski had a great point. Shout out, by the way, to EA Ski, the Almighty, um, for saying that because that's very true. The sonically, they sound almost identical. There's a slight difference, but you can tell that the hardware is not like highly upgraded to really drive, the sounds hard.
Which is
So
crazy because there's like a
Black
thousand
Lion,
dollar difference between the two
yeah,
of them, and
yep,
as
Black
far as the
Lion, man,
computing goes and everything like that, like the only thing that you're really getting as far as the change is within the hardware, the amount of knobs that you have for
right,
the Q
yep,
links and stuff like that, and everything being right there for you. But is technologically speaking, what is inside the actual unit, if that
mhm,
doesn't change, what is the reason for the price bump? The same with the Phantom. What's the reason for the price bump in the Phantom if, it's not
really,
really
I
up
mean,
to par and they're just kind of
Pyro, my man,
waiting to get it there, and it's
Pyro.
just,
We paying for. First of all, we paying for the brand guys,
yeah,
and
mostly.
we paying for the aesthetic of it, right? I mean, Tyrone probably agrees. Man, that NPC X, that red and black is fire. I mean, it looks fire. It's dope. It's got a dope appeal to it, in terms of the way it looks and everything. But absolutely. I mean, we're getting got in terms of $1,000 extra for that. I mean, that could have been like a $300-400 bump for the outside.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
mean,
not.
even a motherboard,
Right.
or
Exactly.
anything like
Exactly. And
there
even
are,
internal memory on board. Yeah.
and it wouldn't touch their profit margins to be able to do this. Like
Exactly.
my problem with Roland and the way that they rolled out the Phantom is that even though the hardware was complete and it was great, top of the line, everything, what was underneath the hood as far as sounds go was nothing unique, and there was nothing the sampler had that any other sampler didn't have. As a matter of fact, it didn't have time stretching, still doesn't have time stretching after all these updates and whatever, even the first update being to the sampler directly. And now they don't even advertise the sampler as a feature on the Fantom EX, on the current Fantom, because they're
Mhm.
so embarrassed of it. They haven't even one shown it off at all. This is the first time that Roland showed up to NAM. I think they may have shown up last time or whatever, but this time it was to prop out the V stage, which is their competitor to the Nord. And it's fine that they're getting into all that, but they even had their 50th anniversary and just tucked the Phantom in the background because whatever, call it embarrassment or whatever, it shines a light on these inadequacies as far as the features go. And I think that's where a lot of us get upset with these companies. Not that we have delusions or expectations. I think a lot of it has to do with the way that things are presented to us. We think that the workflow and understand that the Sonics is somewhere to where it's workable for us, and when you have something that lacks the basic features or just would take this
Right.
little bit of consideration to be able to make a whole world's worth of difference, like, why are they doing this? Why are they putting out an incomplete product and then later on not even getting it up to par before they're propping out something else? And I think people spending their money, our hard-earned money, is the problem, especially because we're still paying premium prices for stuff that isn't sonically sound. And who proved that more than anybody is EA Ski, which is why I put his SB1200 special edition in the thumbnail here, and why I include this in the conversation, because the industry has tucked this conversation and EA Ski's conversation underneath and hoping that we won't bring it up again. But you got to understand, it was just a matter of days, like a couple weeks before he sold out that special edition being sonically sound right away. And it
Right.
was at a premium as far as the price goes. So you can't say that people won't pay a premium for good quality. You know, that's what a lot of us think that we're doing, but we are
Yeah.
understanding as of lately that we're not doing that. We've just been paying for this huge jump in cost, but a reduction in less than the previous models
Right. It's
stuff
like a
here.
rinse. They're doing like a rinse and repeat thing for us, man. Like they,
Like they
we're
did with
not
the
going to
Phantom
give you
EX,
right. We're not
rolling
going
out
to
the
give
same
you
thing.
exactly. We're not going to give you a lot of extra anything because we're going to live off of the brand name. We're going to live off the fact that this is, we gave you limited options of what you can select or choose to get your
Yeah.
work done, right? So they kind of like, they're like kind of monopolizing things in a way, you know what I mean? In certain corners markets, they know they've got people that are dedicated, fans of certain gear, certain equipment, certain sounds, and they're gonna go and run with that, So the thing is though, um, we won't really get into it too much because we got something special in the future to talk about, but I'll just put it this way. These companies can only get away with that kind of behavior for so long before someone else steps up to the plate. I'll just put it that way. Somebody else might step up to the plate who's got the technological capability and the bankroll to enter into that space and compete in a way they're not ready for. So, that's just something to think about right there, right?
And on a small scale, we saw that with the 2400 with Brad from
Mm-hmm.
Isla Instruments and
Yeah.
that is an example. I mean, it wasn't this year because this year just started, but that is an example of really taking the classic hardware and making improvements on and kind of modernizing it, and there's not a lot of that going on. And what you just said is speaking on a larger scale than what EA Ski did, because EA Ski just got together with the owner, and got together and they put
Right.
out this special edition, a limited amount. It was 100, right, that were made for it, and yeah, and they were gone. And it's
Mhm.
crazy to be able to do that, just stepping into the space as a producer in the industry who hasn't really been on the technological side of things other than his previous history with Akai and working on the development of the Renaissance. With all that said, it should be a wake up call, and I guarantee that it was, which is a lot of the stuff going on behind the scenes. Roger Lynn came back, started, as associating with Akai now. They were on the
Right. Right.
panel, but even
Shout
Jermaine
out Roger
Dupri,
Lynn.
yeah, shout out Roger Lynn and his Linstrument as well is starting. People are
Mm-hmm.
starting to learn about the Linstrument, and it's been out for, a handful of years now. So it's good that people are starting to understand what he's been doing. But still, you had Jermaine Dupri, asking like, still, I can't get over it. JD is looking for answers here. He's like, the
Yeah.
3000, just nothing. I mean, still, I still got it. There's nothing that hits harder. And speaking from experience, just having a 3000 limited edition here, there is a huge difference. One,
There
because
really is.
it
There
was
really is.
developed at a time to where those limiters, the thresholds, were a lot less flat frequency and more of the
Mm-hmm.
characteristics that would let you crank it all the way up and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
sound sonically where it needs to be out of the box. I
Yeah.
mean, you could blow out your
Right. Right.
stuff,
And the
pretty
crazy
quick.
and the crazy part about those, and I remember using those, and I love the 3000, right?
Yeah,
Without any question. I mean, very little post work that needed to be done. You know what I'm saying? Like you could
there it is.
get it right where it needed to be, and I mean, you were, cranking out, a song. You know what I mean? Like relatively fast. Now, not a 10-minute song, okay? Because we don't do 10-minute songs, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean, right? We don't do
Yeah.
10-minute songs. I mean, we get in the lab and we, mastercraft them and all that kind of stuff. But you know, to each his own. But that's that. But the 3,000 earned a lot more respect than 10 minutes. So
Yeah, they don't call it the champ for no reason. Tyrone
indeed,
has a good
indeed,
point here. He says at the end of the day, you're going to have to do some processing. That's why I've
yeah,
invested. Um, yeah, doing stuff like the 500 series and the outboard
hmm
processing for everything. You know, it's always up to the end user to color their sound the way that they see fit. I've always understood that. We as engineers and producers, all sizes and shapes, we all understand that in the end it's our final say into how this is going to come out. And a
yeah,
lot of that has to do with external processing. Like I took my Fruity Loops 3 beats over to the recording studio and processed everything going through the microphone and made those tink 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 beats sound up there, up to par. And even though they were like
shout out,
down
Ninth
there,
Wonder,
it's
Ninth
still,
Wonder.
having that studio quality. But there's something to be said about the way that things are with, and this kind of pivots to the user. When does this all become our responsibility as far as, how we're responding to the way that these companies are not only producing the equipment, repackaging it or whatever, but in the complaint department, how many are actually taking action and doing things, differently to where, we're not affected by this. And this is where the gas conversation goes into play. Like, we've said before here on the channel, we don't fall for gas at all because, as emotionally as invested as we are in our music, it's like Dilio 2K said, these are just tools. Use the tools for what you need. Sometimes you need different tools to affect, for different projects, and it all depends on what you have going in front of you. And we all have different stories. We all have different music, no matter what an industry standard is. I mean, is there even an industry standard for anything anymore? I understand loving equipment. I understand loving your gear, especially if you produce something great on it that you have nostalgia over or whatever.
True.
I get that. I do get that.
It's
But
important to love your gear, but not love you.
yeah, yeah, there's a certain extent to where, it becomes a problem, and that's where the acquisition syndrome part of the
Yeah.
conversation comes in, because a lot of people, obviously we're emotional creatures and we attach to these things that make us feel emotional about it. So we want to recapture that and strike lightning in the bottle more than once and go through and be like, yo, I
True.
love that. Let's see if this one just like it will sound, make me love it a little bit more. And then you come to find out and you're like, hey, that wasn't that. And that was not even
Yeah.
a bump up from that. That was a step below that. Well, what the hell's going on here? And then we realize it's been like 5 or 10 years these companies been doing this shit to us, and we're like,
Over and over
hey,
again.
well,
Rinse and repeat, man. Rinse and
and
repeat.
that's the thing. They really placate on the emotional frailty of not only
They
the
do.
human psyche, but the producer and the
Man,
creative, because
game.
we're so emotional about our stuff. It's like Tech Nine says, I'm an artist and sensitive about my shit.
You know, no doubt. No doubt. Hey,
Fragile.
you got some shout outs too to give.
Yeah.
And before you do that real quick, I was gonna tell you, Ray, man, yo, the MPC 3000, man, that thing is still gas, bruh.
Yeah,
It's
for
still
sure. Yeah, yeah, it's still the champ. It's still the champ, even though you could do more with the 4,000. It's still, you can't
can't
you
mess with that
can't
sound.
beat that punch, that champ. So here we go. Ray, DMG, welcome.
In the house.
And I'm a second Zulu, and that will compete on my 8-pack. Yeah, hold on real quick over here. Just making sure I got everything. But yeah, just want to make sure. Sorry, I've been missing you guys in the chat over here, old talkity talk. So as far as gas goes, and I know everybody's different with this, and I know the emotional attachment to the things that we love and the tools that we have. And, what happens when you're just heartbroken over and over again? I mean, yeah, we don't have that heartbreak. We don't experience the same way that other people out here do, but like, we're here to have an intervention here, folks. Lean on us. Let us know, what makes you sad in this moment. I understand that some things, the way that these companies moving, it's tragic, especially when you hear the end result and you're like, these guys aren't producing. Is it the tools or is it the education?
Ah,
Like what is it here
so,
that's making this gas go out of control to where this music's not sounding good? Is
all
it
right, well,
is it us? We're
let's get a
going too
poll.
crazy here.
We are going too crazy, but let's get a poll. So, hey, and Trusto, Moser, man, we gonna need you guys on this one. So what do you guys prefer? I mean, the big debate, the big topic is always: is it hardware? Is it software? Or do we do a hybrid? Which ones are you guys happiest with? One or the other, or a combination of both?
What are you on here? I think I already know your answer, but what side of the fence do you land on?
Hybrid.
Hybrid.
Yeah, I'm a hybrid. I mean, I'm primarily hardware, but I like hybrid because, to me, I'm an engineer, so like I'm all about that software and coding and design and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So like that kind of stuff still appeals to me, even with music, right?
Yeah.
I'm like an 80-20 guy, like probably 80% hardware, 20% into the, software side of it. Something like
Nice.
that for me, 80-20.
I think for me, I'm split right down the middle. I think I'm hybrid right down the middle. I love hardware, and
Yeah.
I love it when the hardware integrates with the software, like the key lab I got right in front of me, and the fact that it has knobs that are just like the MPC 3000, and the
Hmm.
fact that it integrates with analog lab and pigments just perfect. But on the downside to that, even though it has these 16 pads, it's only these 16 pads and they're not
Hmm.
velocity sensitive. So like I
Right.
got to get something to take care of these pads, and it's other than that, I don't know. It just the integration thing and the software. This is the thing. A lot of this hardware that people desire that's older,
Hmm.
was a very complicated time for technology,
It
to
was.
where stuff wasn't out there, like the MPC 3000 still uses floppy, and floppy was a thing all the way up until the 2000s. We were using 3x5s, so that was a thing, just the same way that the turn of the century was still heavily on tape rather than CD. You still got cassette tapes everywhere. My mixtapes were still going in
Yeah, I mean, you can't
2000 and
beat that sound.
2001.
You can't beat that sound either, man. I love that sound on tape, and and absolutely, man. I miss actually putting stuff on vinyl too. So yeah,
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
honest with you, and I'm not saying like trying to say that the Sonic was just so superior. It's not. It's not so much that, but there was a certain I don't know. There's a certain depth to the
Yeah.
sound that you're just not. You don't get sometimes with the digital. That analog, it just does something to you. It's like a different vibrational frequency through your soul or something. I don't know how to
A lot of the
word that.
stuff in the days also of records was to the point to where they were being played on these systems that didn't have limiters when the Sonics were able to get out there the way that they're not now because
Let it
everything's
breathe.
tempered down. And
Just let
yeah,
it breathe.
exactly. And the downside to that is, and I've seen this firsthand a lot, people are blowing out their big sound systems all the time on a regular basis. You'd have to get replacements. You blow out your tube amps or whatever. You're going through that, and I understand minimizing the damage, especially when you're paying for something that costs a lot. But a lot of those shortcuts have changed the way of thinking, especially at a mass production level, to where you're offering your stuff to more people. You got to placate to what the average standard is. And, I think they market research this to death and understand that most people prefer a flat frequency response. But
Mm-hmm.
does that still make it okay to have the exact same dynamics as you would have in a entry level that you have in a flagship? Like, that's
Yeah.
the big conversation here. How could
True.
these two things on one side and the other both sound the same? How could the Fantom be a flagship and still, have the same sonic performances? Here, let me pull it out real quick so we
Yeah.
can just take it
And
out.
while you're
This
doing
right
that,
here.
hey, Trusto, man, pick up some to-go containers of food for me and Viral while you enjoying that tasty meal, dog.
Yeah, let me get the homies in here.
We seen your refrigerator. Stop playing.
Alley Star.
Nice.
Welcome. Ray says, with all due respect, I'm not a fan of hardware that relies on software. The MPC Renaissance is obsolete, and you can't use it on newer MPC software. That's sad. Yeah,
I agree.
and
I agree. I can't stand when you got hardware that claims to be standalone and it has this weird, interdependence
reliance.
on
Yeah.
it's just weird, and to me, like, it's like false advertising or something. I mean, if you
Native Instruments screwed that up big time with the Machine Plus, because it's like not only did it not have the battery in it, but like you had to go through and connect it to the sounds that you needed.
Why are you trying to set me off right now? Why you I got a bone to pick
Hey
with.
man, you're an Akai user. Let them have it.
No, I got a bone to pick with them. See, because, like, now don't get me wrong, guys.
Now you're getting emotional. Watch it.
I actually man, God damn it, I am emotional. Like, no, seriously, no. Like, I have actually kind of love-hate relationship with NI products, right? So
yeah.
The thing is, when they didn't come out with a battery for that thing and you still had to plug it in, I was done with them right there.
Ugh.
And the thing that really, got under my skin a little bit was when they were like, well, you can't really use the existing sounds you have that you paid maybe thousands of dollars for. You need to, get these new ones that are kind of lesser than the ones that you have for your desktop. Like, that was weird, right? But y'all saw what happened, right? That is why Native Instruments is now teaming up with Akai, because they're like, if you can't beat them, better join them before you go out of business. So,
and is it unreasonable for us as consumers to have expectations that after all these years, like, there should be an MK4 machine around the corner? There should be a new flagship Akai around the corner. There should be, like, we have these whataboutisms, just based on our own experience, and the fact that, you look at it realistically, you're like, oh man, it's been 5 years since this, that, and the other, and they didn't do anything new with the special edition. That was just kind of a legacy, moment, trying to bring their flagship up to par. But even with Roland re-releasing the Fantom 5 years later, with nothing in sight, I knew from the point of getting the Fantom that was their 10-year plan, that they're not this is going to be it for them, because hardware wise it is there, but they screwed the pooch on, putting it out there earlier than they needed to, and now it's just been playing catch up the whole time. But are we setting our expectations too high for these companies? I know they don't owe us anything, but I mean, is it our fault for enabling them, or having our expectations just set too high, or is the bar just been set so low because the lack of competition creates this power vacuum to where you either get this as a sampler or you get that? You're either hardware or software, and there's no perfect hybrid. We just have to either use the tools and or don't. I mean, our hybrid here is just taking the hardware and recording it into the DAW, because that's the way to do. We do as much hardware jamming as we would like to do, but Well, you
Man,
know,
I think it's the latter of what you said, man. Definitely, I think that there's a lack of competition, and because of that, like I said, they've kind of cornered the market. They've cornered people's emotions and feelings and
yeah,
loyalties and all those kind of things, and they're playing upon that stuff.
yeah.
And yo, man, you see the comments, man? Man,
Yeah,
look,
yeah, and
Alice,
this
Ray,
is
man,
Ray. I
facts,
wanna address
facts,
this one here. The native instruments in Akai is weak. You know, they should have dropped contact with Akai
contacts,
software. You know, and this is kind of the thing. You know, when it comes to this sort of thing with them, and I know that they're just kind of kicking the can down the road. And some people really thought, oh, well, that must mean that there may be something coming around the corner for a Kai at Nam. And then Nam was like, oh no, it's just
uh,
the software.
which is
It's
yeah,
just the
it's crap.
software, you know. And I know that we're told that it's going to be this. Sometimes, you know, we're not told anything, and just the people who are in the know are told about what's going to come out and what's not going to
Right.
come out. But like, is it just us waiting for the tools to be where they need to be, or are we just being unreasonably upset about stuff? You know, for one, over here, there's nothing really to be upset about if you know what you're getting into. But the problem is they do so much of the marketing. Let's just get the content creators out of it, you know, not to get them out of it, but just take that out of the equation of the conversation for a moment here. The
Hey,
amount of marketing they put in on their own
yeah.
websites showing on one thing or another with the features, they really jazz us up to believe with all the smoke and mirrors and light shows and
Mhm.
everything that it's going to really do the thing that you need to do. And you know, I was going to get a machine before getting a Fantom, but I considered the Fantom to be a workstation and thought that I wouldn't need anything moving forward. But first, I had to get an interface, and then I had to get an analog mixer, and then realizing that I had to make all the adjustments to make it sound the way that I needed to myself. So I had to do all the sound designing to create my own patches to make it sound the way that you need to project that instead of it
Exactly.
having all the reasonable presets. It
Yeah.
was just a
I
very
mean,
small amount and a very
it,
big piece of hardware.
and it is that part is what it is. Before we continue though, you got some shout outs, man.
Yeah. Welcome, guys. That's not
That's
it.
not it.
I'm not gonna get away. Teddy bear source. Welcome.
Word. And great comment, Seth, by the way, too. I'm
Says,
digging what you said,
yeah,
man.
he says it's not weak at all. I think people forget how far Akai has come over the years. People are spoiled, make music. It's way more than what was given from way back then. And that is a huge,
Yeah,
huge
that's a
element of this
truism.
conversation here. We are fucking spoiled as shit. When you think
Hell
at all
yeah.
in my life growing up, I'd be
Hell
able
yeah,
to
we
put
spoiled.
myself in the face of an MPC 3000 limited edition for as much as it costs now, considering what it cost then. I didn't grow up with this
But
kind of money or
you
this kind
damn
of
right.
gear or anything like that. You know, we are
Hey
definitely
man,
in a
you damn right we
buyer's
spoiled
market.
viral. You know what? Look here, man. Look, with technology, man, the advancement of technology, man, we supposed to be spoiled, y'all. Look, you know what I'm saying? That's why we can, you know what I'm saying? So I mean
We could do
we
shut
good,
just on the fly. Yeah, you know, there's a lot to be said about that. But what happens when the technology reaches a certain point and our skill
right,
level and
right.
understanding reach a certain point, but what is being produced out there is 10 to 20 years old? You know, when the Phantom came out, it had prehistoric drum pads. And even at that moment in 2000, what was it, 19, you know, they should have done a lot better. But like, woulda, coulda, shoulda. You get something, you understand the tool it is, but it was underneath the hood that I was sold the bill of goods on. It wasn't the hardware. I was cool with the hardware. And even looking at it, it was like, yo, this is a game changer. But I was basing that perspective on the could have beens, and that was my mistake. You know, however, it was my mistake to fall in line with the advertising that was set to me, and the previous models with the technology in it that superseded the technology of the current Phantom. And that is where the fine line is drawn, I think. You know, when you save up or you spend a lot of money on a flagship, you have reached the flagship level. You've reached the level to where you feel that, hey, I know there's a few people that get a flagship and think it's going to make them $1 million, and that's their thinking. But, you know, those people are delusional. You know, you get things once you reach that level of actually getting it. Most of us are to that point to where we're like, okay, I feel I deserve this, or I feel that my skill level has reached a point to where I need this type of tool. You know, so when you're at that flagship level and then you're having problems that you don't even have in something like this.
Yep.
Like, this is the crazy thing here. This is one feature of the Roland Fantom right here, the TR unit, you know, and having this sonically sounds exactly what the Phantom sounds like coming out. And as a matter of fact, it has analog circuit behavior technology out the box that the Fantom didn't have until the EX upgrade. So what are we talking about here?
Right.
You know, yes, there's a fine line. Yes, we're spoiled, but there's the real conversation is the fact that we get these smaller tools from the same company with the same understanding of the technology that existed with Roland. You know, they had the MV, they have the SP404, they understand time stretching, they understand the basic tenets of sampling, they understand how to make something sonically come out to where the outputs on the older Phantoms were 24-bit, not 16-bit. You know, so with the things that have changed, why would you take a step backwards when the technology has improved so much? And you guys are still giving us technology that is outdated from the point of it coming out, and then you're forcing us to settle with it to where we're just like, okay, what's going on here? Because we understand a lot of us are in IT, a lot of us are understanding what has been out there, what the technology currently is. And I think that's where this conversation really exists in with G.A.S. and gear and all this other stuff. You know, I know people have judgments of professionalism and, oh, how much do you know about gear? What's your credentials? Where's your placements at?
I have zero. Let me go ahead and manage expectations for everybody in here.
Yeah.
I've been in the music industry and kind of in the background for a long time. But look, I have zero ability to say I'm a gear expert. I just buy shit I like and I play with it and I have fun, you guys. I mean, like, the truth be told, man, like, look, whatever you can afford, if you're into gear, just get it.
Yeah.
You know
Don't
what I mean?
suck the
Like,
joy out of producing
absolutely.
music because you're so hell bent on
Right.
the gear,
But,
you know,
but
making
if
you.
but if you get gear, and me and Viral, we have been around this one for a while with each other, and I think we're in agreement. If you do get gear, like, it's true. If you're an audiophile, like EA, all respect to EA, he's a real audiophile. I mean, that guy. Keep in mind, that man does this for a living on a very high level, and he consistently does it on a high level, right?
And if you want to know that, check the Ice Cube track from 10 years ago.
Let's just go ahead and call it what it is, right? That is an absolute fact, right? So he's kind of, in a way, he's not even in this conversation right now.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about people that like to make music, and if we happen to make some money, cool. If we don't, cool. We're having fun. We enjoy what we do. And all I would say is, if you get gear, and this is what I was talking about with me and Viral, if you do get gear, please stop complaining about what you can't do with it and learn how to use it.
Or move on from it and get something that's closer than what you want. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, like, learn how to use it and master your craft with something. You know what I mean? Like, word. You know what I'm saying, Seth? Learn your gear. And it doesn't hurt you to actually take that manual that comes with it normally, or the one you can download online. You'll be shocked at what you'll figure out if you just read it. Like, it's crazy. I know reading used to be fundamental, but I know it's really not anymore. But I'll just say, but go online. You could learn it online
For
too.
sure, for
Obviously.
sure.
So there's a video out there, right? Your words.
Thanks for the super chat. He says, "Save your money because the flagship is coming. Roger Lynn is not just there for PR. It's going to be fully loaded." And
All
yeah,
right.
yeah, and it probably is because if anything, the EA Ski conversation and him selling those SP1200 special editions taught Akai and the rest of the professional audio world anything, is that the professionals are willing to pay a premium for premium gear. And somebody else said in here about the SP1200 is the sonic peak. That's what Ali Starr says. And there's something to be said about that. And it's why the 2400 is so successful, because even though that's not up to what the 1200 is, it still has its own characteristics, and being something modernized, it was perfect for the time that it came out. And we need more innovators like that, out here, thinking about the not only musician on a professional level, but the guys who just want to have fun with it and play around with the gear. I think a lot of this conversation gets clouded in the complaint department, and especially being in music, I understand the expense. I understand being sold a bill of goods and thinking that you're going to get something else, but there's also a standard of living in advertising, and they treat us exactly as average consumers. And what we need to understand is that we're smarter than average consumers, and if we're smarter than average consumers,
prosumers.
So what that means is that you can take what you have and understand it on a level to where your average consumer isn't going to be fooled by the advertising nonsense. And once we go through the circumstantial relationships of our equipment, we start understanding that, a lot of this is just advertising. A lot of it is just the adverts coming through and trying to market to us in a way, that the average people fall for it. But don't let the marketing fool you. You know what I mean? It's just
hold up for 1 second, man.
Here you go.
Do your shout outs real quick and then continue, man, because you got some. We got some crazy rabbit in there.
Serious question. Those that complain, are they making music or barking to bark? Yeah, and the crazy wabbit has something very genuine as far as the question goes. Are you just complaining about it, or are you making it? Because the complaint department is, the reactivity of what YouTube is in our musical space has jaded a lot of perspectives about our professional gear. And what we find out through this space is that there are a lot of people speaking on this issue who don't make music. And it's not about making music for a living or professionally or getting placements or awards or anything like that. It's just making music in general, whether it be for fun as a hobby or professionally, whether you're chasing placements, making beats or whatever. A lot of that convoluted discussion gets wrapped up in the zeitgeist of it all. And I think that negativity shines through just because the algorithm pushes it out there to shine through, and they're like, hey, this is what people want to talk about. Yeah, it's what we want to talk about, but we don't want that end result to be what it is with these guys every time, which is basically the have-nots. There you go, waving your finger at the people who are making music again and say, hey, that's not the tool that you want. You don't want that tool. You're not qualified to use that tool. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you're not qualified to use a tool because you didn't exist in a certain space that they did. And that is that gatekeeping. That's exactly what the gatekeeping is of it.
And real quick, man, a Dynasty, man, we see you, dog. Man, thanks, man. I appreciate you.
Dynasty.
Appreciate that.
For sure. Yeah, I've been watching your content. I've been trying to catch up on all the content. It's like right when I get up this morning, there's 6 live streams going on, and I'm like, okay, so I can only be in 3. I got 2 on my cell phones and 1 on my desktop. I'm gonna have to pick and choose here, folks.
Yeah.
Sunday's always a busy day. We do these later, but
And Dynasty, I've been meaning to go check out all your stuff too, man. I'm about to blow it up in the next couple of days, so get ready, man. You're gonna be like, what's wrong with this guy?
as a sample-based producer, you will find it interesting, son.
No doubt.
To say the least, ruffling feathers out here. But yeah, it's one of these things that no matter how you use your gear, no matter how you reflect your equipment, whether it's hybrid, whether it's software, I guess we could start on the hardware versus software conversation, getting into that pivot. We were talking about it before, not to reveal too much about our conversation in private, but the way that the technology has existed versus what exists now. And obviously, technologically speaking, we couldn't get this computing in these old synthesizers. A lot of these old synthesizers, they have the limitations, and what makes them so great is how we produce it through the outboard gear. And trying to reflect that nowadays in a computing that is completely insane from what it was back then, you could get a lot of that done, a lot more of that done with the software now compared to, the hardware. Does it make it better when you can buy a $60 plugin that you would normally have to spend $20,000 to get the hardware that, is still so elusive and rare? There's where the conversation comes from. You're obviously, nobody has that kind of money laying around, and if you do,
I gotta real quick. I gotta give it to Tyrone. Tyrone, man, put your comment back, man. I saw that, man. You was talking about your life story a little bit, man. Come on, man. We want to hear the origin story. I peeped it, man. So come on.
I missed it. I'll have to go back for the playback.
Oh, I got it. I got it locked in, man.
All right.
Yeah, come on, Tyrone, come back to us.
Yeah, don't feel shy to chime in here, because this one of the reasons why we're having this conversation in this space, because we're having this conversation in this space. This is not this shit again, or these guys are shitting on these companies. For one, Roland will probably never work with me considering the content that I've had, but at the same time, I don't feel so contentious about them that I won't go fork over my own money on their equipment, on the stuff that I feel is actually workable. And one of the things with the Roland Fantom that I enjoyed more than anything else was the TR unit. The TR unit being in here and having the technology it is and the portability of a drum machine. I went out and I got this. So I don't hate Roland just because they shit on their own flagship and did what they did with it. But, you say these things and you're not shilling for these companies and they have some things to feel about it.
But
fine. You could have that feeling about it, but, I don't. I'm cool.
You might have some love coming from Roland, because a shout out to all of my homies at Roland in Japan.
Ed Diaz especially. Shout out to him. Yeah, shout out to Ed Diaz.
Over here. So, sorry I missed you guys at NAMM this year. Me and Vile will see you next year.
For sure.
And Vile, I'm gonna make sure I take you so we can go have dinner with Roland, man. We're gonna go do that.
Rolling Japan, rolling Germany, or rolling
it don't matter, right? But I got ties to my Japanese brothers, so we good.
Word. Yeah, so this is the thing about it, say what you're going to say and do what you're going to do. There's no reason to keep your mouth shut over inadequacies or discrepancies in the gear that we use. We have earned the right to complain with the money that we have spent, especially if we spent a certain number of years spending a certain amount of money. You know what I mean? We have all earned the right, and it's a free life. It's not the country we live in. This is an international platform here. You know what I mean? Like we have only with our very existence have earned the right to say what we need to say when it comes to this. And this conversation is something that exists every day within us. The reason why the Akai conversation was such a big video, the biggest for Viral Beats, is because we have this conversation all the time. It was still relevant. It's still going to be relevant tomorrow. And the funny thing about it is, I was literally having that exact same conversation just 3 days prior to producing that video. And it's going to keep rolling with it. And,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
appreciate you guys in here having this conversation because
Oh no.
we need to lean on each other. And it's not that we need to gain from one another
Yeah,
other than the fact that the
and
perspective of,
and
of our
guys,
circumstances,
we need to remember why we do music too. Look, we need to remember.
Oh, what happened? What happened? Is that Sun? Did we lose Sun?
What we're doing.
Oh,
You know,
here
it
we
gets
go.
too serious. It gets too locked down on. Oh, I'm trying to do this, trying to do. Now, if you big time, you in the business and you professional like that. Hey, shout out to you, and I'm happy. But a lot of us, we just want to have some fun. We just want to make some beats. We want to rap over some stuff. We want to do things like that. So,
For sure. We
hey,
lost you for a minute there. The Zoom cut out.
did we? Did it?
Yeah.
Did it really?
Yeah. So we lost a
Oh,
huge
okay.
chunk.
So,
We're back up though, so we're
okay,
good.
cool,
We're
cool. I wanted to
good.
say real quick to Dynasty. Hey, man, I will get my channel to you, but just keep in mind we haven't launched yet, and the reason why we're not is because we are doing certain things with a lot of content, and my stuff is a little more involved. It's not, to be honest with you, my main channel is not really too much about music. Actually, it's more about improving the human condition. It's real, like interviews that are long form interviews that are interviewing people from like all over around the world about changing the way we interact with each other as humans. So yeah, so we'll get into that. Hope you guys actually would tune into that too and dig it. We got real stuff going on in this world. So
Yeah, we'll definitely do all those cross
yeah,
promotional shout outs
yeah,
and all that
definitely.
other stuff. So
Okay, back
catching
to
up
the
around the chat.
conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the thing about the gear, one of the things I was just saying before it cut out for a second to Zoom is this, guys. Look, we know what we do, and some of us are very serious, and we're here to make money with our music. But a lot of us are just here really to have fun and enjoy our gear and learn new stuff and make cool stuff. So let's make cool shit and have fun.
And let's be honest about the music industry and the way that things go in comparison to what you could do yourself musically, because you do have the industry and their standard of practice and the way that things are going, and that's cool. But independently speaking, the technology has reached a level to where you could create your own circumstance, no matter, how primitive, whether it be just building your own website or throwing your stuff on BeatStars or
All right.
whatever. You could always get your stuff out there at whatever capacity you would like. If you want to go to this grand scheme of things and get in the industry or whatever, there's a
Mm-hmm.
stepping stone to that. If you just want to have fun and put your stuff, there's a way to do that too. There's always a space to exist within making music to where you don't have to have credentials or placements to be considered as a serious musician. Some of the best musicians won't get off the street, you know what I mean? You won't ever hear, and then you'll be like, "Oh, this person has perfect pitch and it's a homeless
Yeah.
person." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just like, nah, just like being out here singing on the streets, you know what I mean? They're fine with that. We all understand what our lives are like and what lane that we have the ability to carve out. And I understand that, when it gets into making music, some of us are, more schooled than others. A lot of us have been around a long time, old gang, you know what I mean,
Right.
is
Right.
creeping
Yeah.
up on here for a lot of us. But there are a lot of us that in this older
Feel
age
attacked,
are
Byron. Feel
just,
attacked.
you shouldn't, And that's the thing, like, we need to not hesitate in sharing our experience and our knowledge with other people as well, and which is a perfect segue here to Tyrone's comment. He said, started building the studio for my son. He's an artist, but he got out, and I loved it, so I kept building. I don't put out beats, but this keeps me out of the streets. And that's the realest shit ever. I
Hmm.
think a lot of us too in our generation are starting to understand how exactly to interact with our children, our biological children, when it comes to the music thing, because a lot of us musicians have children musician, and it just kind of follows suit. Like we're trying to find our lane with little Tussin over here and his crazy 8-year-old ass, but we still have my oldest who just turned 24, and getting into things, and shout out to him, and the stuff that he's doing musically. And it just the tools that we have and the music that we make, it's a lot more abstract than the finite tools that we have. It's just, we have personal tools that help us musically a lot better than this physical technology that exists out here. You could make a whole instrument out of your voice and nothing but. You could go a cappella. You got harmonicas. You got this thunder can over here. There's a lot that you could do with very little hardware wise, even software wise. Because software-wise, you don't need anything more than a computer and a DAW, And last I checked, Reaper, is like a 90-day trial and $60 to own it outright, and it works in every circumstance. You could still get computers, even older ones, for a couple $100, and really push it out there.
I got to shout out Dynasty real quick. Hey, man. Hey, I appreciate you, man. I'm hoping it does have some impact. And what you're saying, man, about it being cheaper now. That's it's true. It's so easy to get that software. And look at what Seth said. Yep, Seth, man, facts, man. I appreciate that, man. It's all about each one teach one, man. Yeah. And then he said, sorry, Megan, that hey, Seth, I don't know where you from, man, but that was me in New York, man. We were banging out beats on the cafeteria table in the lunchroom, on mailboxes outside. And everybody was just standing around rapping, man. It was like, yeah, those were good times, those ciphers, man.
Yeah, that's all high school was for me, just smoking weed and rapping.
You know what I'm
circles,
saying?
And
was there anything else?
And back then, I didn't try to produce at all. I was just getting industry beats from, I'd just pull them off the singles, and then when I'd be with my DJ friends, they'd pull them off the records. And that's how I did it for a while until I realized, like, I want to write songs using my own beats because these beats don't go with the songs that I'm writing, so it was kind of a whole thing. But that's my own personal journey and my own story, and even with as contentious as I was with the Fantom, getting rid of it wasn't a point of contention as much as it was the fact that I outlived the tool. We outlived the tool here. We made the 5 albums that we made, we put out the content that we did, and that was it. As much as we wanted to wait and do things here and there, it was pretty clear to us that it outlived its usefulness in the studio.
No doubt. Yep. And hey, shout out Texas, Seth, my brother, and Thomas looks like he's taking off, man, going to bed. Have a good rest, brother.
Take care, guys. I appreciate you guys coming through. Yeah, we gotta do things for the little Tussins out here in the world, and this always finds his way to creep into a conversation. I'm from NYC, man, but yeah, man, I don't know too much about Dr. Butcher, man. I probably do. Lights right in your
but
face.
For some reason the name's not ringing a bell for me. But
say bye.
I've been in the game since, well, we talking about like, Bronx, right. Brooklyn, Queens, probably like since 79 or so. So, like way right back at the beginning. So, shout out Zulu Nation, by the way.
Was there from the birth.
Yeah, no doubt. It was cool. Some interesting times, man.
So as far as things go with here in this conversation, because this will keep going, and even I think it was Seth who was like, "Yo, I could keep talking about this forever." I mean, like the conversation could just keep going. Just keep going on it. There's something to be said about the pivot that I think Akai is making right now with them embracing Roger Lynn. Because it was kind of weird on their anniversary to where they're like, well, yeah, and not only that, they bigged him up on the anniversary, but yet we're still out of contact with them. And I thought that was really weird, So I'm glad that, you get older, you kind of age your way out of the beef, whatever they had going on. And I understand a little bit, about the behind the scenes stuff,
Right.
and all that other stuff. But, obviously they must have resolved it if it was one of those things to where it was like being locked out of your royalties, because
Oh, they
that is
really
one
did.
hell of a thing
They,
to do. you
yeah,
know
they needed to make the peace with that and do right by Roger Lynn, because I mean, come on, man. You talking about the guy that, like, he changed the world of music for
yeah.
all of us, like, especially for all of us NPC heads, right? Like, if it wasn't for that dude, like, I don't even know what I'd be doing right now.
Yeah,
That would have changed the path if I would have made my way to an NPC. So,
there are those moments in life and in music in general to where these things happen that just change the direction of things. Like you could tell in these moments, like Run DMC and Aerosmith, Dr. Dre, like just things that you just know, like these things that totally changed the game. Roger Lynn, like there's people that affect this change that still exist within this space who are trying to make it right by us, the customer, the consumer of it all, and to follow those people within the space is definitely a good direction for anybody who's looking to get into this space or wondering who to listen to. Always listen to the innovators who are developing currently, and don't listen to people just because they're more popular. Because we've all learned about popularity, especially when it comes to music and popular music. The best
hmm
music isn't the most popular out there, and the best
true.
YouTube channels are not the most popular, the best, popularity and success don't equate decency, and having this
Facts.
conversation is something that gets a lot of us through our gear acquisition syndrome, because we just love our gear so much. We're just chasing that lightning in a bottle, and
Yeah.
but some
Yeah.
of us also want to see these moments exist to where, like, I want to see Roland do right by their Phantom. They're not going to with this one, but they will most likely take the mistakes that they've made, and in another 4 years or whatever, when they produce out their next Phantom, they'll be like, hey, and it's going to be with great difficulty because how they screwed this one up. But to feel any kind of way personally to where, like, there's a negative, I guess you could feel that way about the way I feel about something, but that's another thing about feelings, just because somebody hates somebody that you love, or hates something that you love, vice versa,
Hey,
there's no reason to, not like it yourself or not like the other person just because their feelings or the way that it interacted with them. And I think we as a community, being so marginalized here, especially within this space, we need to have these conversations exist more frequently. And even though Ieski was talking about it this morning, Curtis King and Guru were talking about it yesterday. And then
shout out
Ieski
Curtis
went
King.
live while they were still live talking about it with Curtis King. So, like, it's just something that is an ongoing conversation. As long as there's music, as long as there's tools to make music, to make the beeps go boop, as long as there's these companies that produce these tools, you know, I think the takeaway here is just understanding the advantage that we have, the privileged position of
With
being able to
sports.
affect the change within these companies, like EA Ski did with the SP 1200 Special Edition. It's got this whole movement going and these gears turning within these companies to actually settle some of their previous history and move forward on some real development. Now, whatever they produce after that, we got high hopes.
No
Tyrone's like,
doubt.
it's going to be fully loaded, and it very well may be. But But is there anything that has come out as of recent that has been revolutionary and game changing?
Nope.
I mean, you got maybe they tried to do that with the Muse. You know, the Osmos was a big game changer. You know, but that was an example of you know, something being produced before it was ready. You know, under tremendous stress and complications. But you're also talking, you know, a different third party company versus these flagship companies, these legacy companies like Roland and Akai and Yamaha and all that other stuff. Hold on. Have God, have peace. Welcome. How's it going? Welcome to the conversation about gear and gear acquisition syndrome and other stuff.
Just so you know, we have zero resolutions for anybody when it comes to gear. We have no answers. No answers.
Yeah, we should have prefaced this conversation like it does anytime. We have no answers for you at all when it comes down to this. You're going to get what you're going to get, and you're going to love what you're going to love. And that's the thing. We all love what we love. You know, we shouldn't be judging other people. And I get it, you know. Music is subjective and highly scrutinized, especially when it comes to the mainstream level in the music industry and stuff like that. But we're on the producer side of things. We're having this conversation as producers. So can we really get upset here? I mean, how many of us, I mean, we have the time to have this conversation.
We have no answers. Facts.
The answer is everything. And everything, you know? And yeah, digital killed the analog star. Well, there's also that saying that good digital always beats bad analog.
That's true, man.
You know, I know that there is this technological shift that has changed things, but there's also been this consciousness shift as far as the understanding of the musician consumer, the producer, the one who wants to just make music as a hobby or just make it professionally, however you want to make it. You know, if there is a certain level or a standard that we are meant to live up to, there's no reason why that standard can't be consistently produced by these companies. So it's up to us to hold their feet to the fire, you know, and just keep our expectations low. Because in the end, they're companies, they're conglomerates, which, you know, have, you know, their tentacles stretched in other elements, and they're going to market the way that they market it. And their advertising is a huge kicker.
Yeah, they're in it to make money. You know, if they don't give us everything we want, you know, it is what it is. Man, Tyrone,
yeah.
Tyrone, you a beast, dog.
Can you imagine a keyboard, 12-inch screen, 3,000? So you're talking like a Miko. Remember that Open Labs Miko? That was a great concept. It was just way too expensive, and by the time they released it, that computer was already outdated. So it was like, how are you going to get this done if it's just a Windows? It was a great concept, though. I'd give it to Timbo and whoever in Open Labs have those things around. But even getting those used,
yeah, man, they're crazy.
Does anybody remember that piece of gear? What is it? The Miko? Or is it the Nico? Is it Nico or Miko? By Open Labs Technologies. It was propped out by Timbaland. He had one thing. He did this performance, and he had two of them. And he had them mixing and did a live performance with both of them side by side. It was really cool. Uh-oh. Sun's frozen again.
Oh yeah, it looks like we got lost. It just dropped or whatever.
No, you're good. You're good. It's on your side because I'm still going. So
yeah, it's weird. I'm trying to figure out why. I don't want to mess with it right now because like I got that fiber, man, but I'm sure it's probably has to do something with probably the switch or something.
I think Dave Smith, when he invented the MIDI, changed everything to me. That was the last major innovation. Yeah, and yeah, rest in peace, Dave Smith. God, the Smiths.
Yes.
That's my family right there. I don't know what in the third, fourth cousin, but yeah, got to vote with your money. Yeah, and that's the thing about it. You take what you have and you put it out there. And I know you're not frozen now because I could see the reflection on the
Yeah.
headphones. I could see the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
he's out there focusing.
Yeah. Focusing. But
Yeah, things were definitely pricey, and yeah, that's the thing with growing up and having all this. As far as the quality of music goes,
now you were frozen, man.
what's that?
You were frozen for a moment.
See, it's the Zoom shit.
It's gotta be the Zoom shit, man. It's gotta be.
We still have
Okay.
to figure out how to do our audio in the back.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. I think I got some audio. Let's see if I got some. Hey guys, let me know if y'all gonna hear the audio in the back. Okay, we're gonna come in with some audio real quick. Hey, look, we gonna test the gas pedal on one of these MPCs real quick. Let me know if y'all can hear this.
I can hear it.
Let's go. All right, I'm gonna stop right there. Just we just playing around with some hip hop.
Ooh, here's here's a nice one. Crazy Wabbit says, "Wonder if the tariffs in the States will curb gas." They most certainly will. I could tell you right now, I feel very privileged to have been able to obtain this iMac because it was just right when Apple decided to open this big plant in China to where they are servicing all of their orders directly from. So it had to be imported, and that would have cost me a great grip because 25% across the board on a 3,500. Yeah, that'll definitely curb some gas. That'll definitely curb some gas. And do you think that will, to do a follow-up to that question, do you think that will help innovation in the U.S.? Because the U.S. here now, it's like the French are killing it. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so we got Arturia, France. We got UVI, France. We got, these, legacy companies. Roland is three countries. They got the Roland Japan, Roland Germany, and then Roland US, right? And that's the three. And I think they have moved. They're doing a lot of their stuff in.
Well, let me say this, Viral. Look. Okay, so I think we all can agree that for a fact there are a lot of brilliant and talented people in the United States of America. There's a lot of great minds, engineering minds, and musically talented humans.
Oh, I appreciate the compliment.
Right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, and Viral, you in there, dog.
Oh man, I was just joking around.
You are in there, man. For real. And I say that with all sincerity, man. And as there are many people online right now who are clearly talented musicians, right? So we have a lot of true ability here in the United States. There's a lot of intelligence, collective intelligence here.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing is, for us to innovate, the only problem is that we're very expensive people too. Like it costs. If you get the best minds in America, they're going to be like, well, considering the cost of living here in this country, you're going to have to pay me some good money to innovate. On the top of that, can you imagine if we tried to manufacture here? See, and that's why now look at what China did. I mean, we hit them with the tariffs, right? China just turned around and said 75%. They're like we hear you on your little 10% you throwing at us. We hitting you with a 75%. So, and hey, I felt bad for everybody who buys all this stuff from like Shein and Temu and stuff like that. Like that, I'm like, you're about to be paying like you paying at the Gap. or
Yeah,
somewhere
and
like so.
that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of these distributors of this equipment, they're local, but they have to get them from these companies, and these companies are largely like Arturia has been killing it this year on their anniversary, and they're operating out of France, and yes, they've given the market what they have,
And
buying directly
yeah,
from
do
our
you see where
distributors here.
Crazy Wabbit said? Crazy Wabbit, you right, man. We greedy, man. You
Yeah.
you ain't even lying, brother.
We are too lazy here in the States to innovate. Yeah. We are on social media, Bitcoin. Yeah. We don't even want to do the work of having physicality. We're like, no, we're going to take out that
Oh
non
man,
physical and make it
did you
non
did you see
physical.
that? You guys did you guys peep it? The news stories while we talking about gear, man. Apparently American farmers couldn't work the gear because people who were trying to pick the food, they were like talking about some of them quit after 1 hour. Some people went to lunch, never came back. So yeah, like man, that's crazy,
Yeah.
bro.
That is a whole other
That's
separate
crazy. Yeah, yeah. We
conversation
we could we
because
could go there another day, but wow.
technologically speaking, people don't like to get political on things, but this is one of those times where the politics affects our ability to create, and it's not
Yeah,
a freedom of speech measurement as it typically has been in the United States. Now it is gauged on a geopolitical, economic standard that is being shifted, and it's going to
yeah.
have ramifications. So this whole conversation may not even, yes, we'll have the conversation about gear, but maybe we'll understand how lucky we are to have some of this gear and start loving
Absolutely.
our
While we
stuff
can
instead of just
sense
trying to get the newer thing, and that's another
absolutely, because
thing.
we may not be able to get it.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like we're the same assholes who wait for a brand new iPhone even though there hasn't been any change, and we'll sit and wait for the biggest and baddest next innovation to come along
I'm good, bro.
just for bragging rights to say that we have. But that's the
Yeah,
thing. It is a lot less of that when it comes to music production. We're a lot
absolutely.
more we clutch our pearls and a lot more tighter with our with our purse, you know what I mean? Like, I hate to put it in that kind of analogy, but
Like you big pearl clutching. It's like, oh man.
and this is the perfect example here. You guys know here on the channel who are familiar that we've been in the market for an MPC, a modern MPC, for the sampler and portability and everything like that. However, we already have Serato sample to sample with. We already have all the hardware that we need as far as controller wise. We just need pads with 16 and 4 banks. So why don't I just get the pads with 16 pads and 4 banks? So that's exactly what we're doing
Yeah.
here.
I
We're going to
mean,
get the MPD instead of the MPC because all we need to do is hook it up to the key lab over here and be able to use it on Serato sample. And because I'm going to be recording into Logic Pro with the MPC, it just makes sense to get something right away and use the technology. And I'm actually getting something more primitive because I have something better. And, since Serato sample is great software, all I need is the controller to affect it really when it comes down to the tools. So using minimal, it's not minimal effort, but it's just, that is a small amount of tools, small piece of gear that I'm choosing over getting an MPC 1 Plus or whatever they figure out with their software, because they're still trying to figure it out with their software. And it's not like that I want to wait or whatever. It's just the expense of the $700 or whatever versus the expense of $100. It's just reasonable because I need sampling right away. And I'm fine using what I'm using now with the 16 pads I'm using. I just need 16 times 4. But it's just about using the tools that you need, just kind of like what Dilio 2K was saying. They're just tools. They're just tools. You get what you need, you move on, get something else or whatever. Getting emotional about somebody else's tools is really, really weird. And I think Crazy Wabbit put a post on that. I think I don't want to paraphrase his post, but he posted on this very thing talking about people who judge other people for the tools that they use to make music when they don't make music themselves is extremely weird. And
It is weird.
I
That
know
is
I am
weird.
paraphrasing that. I'm not quoting directly,
It's weird.
but I do believe it was Crazy Wabbit who said that. And I agree with that statement wholeheartedly.
Same
Like
here.
it
Same
is
here.
extremely weird. I get the emotion of it all. I get loving our gear. I get the attachment that we form this bond from creating this stuff. But
Hey, real quick, man, viral man. Look, you see that comment from Tyrone Sellers, man? Yo, man, yo, man. Like, man, why are you trying to get into a fight online with me, man?
ooh, so Tyrone
Just try to,
says
just try to,
Serato sampler is better
fighting
than
words, man.
MPC sampler.
Them fight words, man. I like all. And hey, shout out to my boys that own Serato too, because yo, they
Come a long
fire,
way over the years, haven't they?
yeah, fire product, man. But yo, that MPC 3 update, man. That yo, I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I jumped into that repitch they got on there, man. I've been using that thing every day, man.
That's
So
dope.
it's a game changer. Like it just like cleaned up everything, and I really dig it. So y'all should, if y'all got an NPC, try that out. Let me
So
know what you think. But you right, Tyrone. Though Serato got a pretty dope sampler, man. But I'll just say, like, I feel like it's on par with like what at least what I can do with an NPC. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
so this is my logic here. If we're busy here on the channel, so busy to where we got to do live streams instead of producing content, we're in album mode right now. The reason why we haven't produced any content in a couple of weeks is because I'm working on this single. You guys familiar with the channel understand, our motivations and what we do and everything. But, with that said, and everything that we've got going on, it just makes more sense to use the tools that we have because we already have Serato sample. We only need the pads and nothing else. So
Right.
when they just switch their iOS and I have to learn basically a new software, that takes time. It doesn't take much time, but it takes enough time to where, especially in something as convoluted as an MPC, it's a lot more complex than, say, Serato sample. And
Mhm.
already having that and the familiarity and already working in Logic Pro, I don't have to take any extra time. If I get an MPC right now at this current state of producing music, I'm going to have to take the time to learn something new. I have no problem with that. It's just we are hitting the ground running on album mode and doing everything that we're doing within this. So just right now specifically, and the expense of $700-800, it's going to be reasonable after taxes, but before taxes, I could use that drum pad. So I could get it right away and use it right away because I'll be using it the day that I get it. Not to say that I wouldn't be using the MPC the day that I get it, but it's just using the tools that are around us. And this is the example of doing it. I'm just taking advantage of what is around. Now, for the channel, it'd be bigger for the channel and better for the channel's, algorithm or whatever. If I pulled an MPC out and said, hey, look at this MPC, guys, check this out. But we don't exist in this space to do that kind of thing. We just happen to exist within this space as a sidebar to doing music, which is the main motivations of everything. So if I'm too busy doing music, there ain't no live streaming, but if I'm taking time live streaming and doing music, you think I got time to learn a whole ecosystem? I still haven't even learned some of the basics on this thing. I learned what I needed to do to jammed out real quick, put my samples in and just hit the ground running on it. It's just use what you have. Use what you have. And if you need something smaller, get something smaller. Don't feel pressured that you need this or you need that
Yeah.
or you need this to be a pro or that to be a pro. It doesn't take much. You could do a lot with very, very little.
This is so true because I can tell you guys, look, I'm getting rid of a lot of stuff, and it's not necessarily even music gear. It was like some of the larger format gear that I use to create content and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need all that, man. It's like I like the small form factors, and especially with like the MPC. Honestly, man, I carry my MPC Live 2 everywhere I go, man, and good enough.
Yeah.
Sketch out the idea. Of course, we might have to, like it was mentioned earlier, process some things, through some better hardware to get the sound exactly where we want it. But the thing about it is that, get your ideas down, have fun, make your music that you're gonna make, and don't overwhelm yourself, and half God, half beast. Yo, peace, brother. Have a good one.
Yeah. Take care. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I agree with you, man, Viola, completely, bro. Like I agree with you, man. Like just, like I said, you don't need all that stuff, man. Just, simplify. Simplify.
Yeah, and you know, when it comes to learning to create and doing all that, I understand the desire to keep out of a DAW and wanting to go hardware. And a lot of this conversation with gear, most of it has to do with people who want to stay within the hardware versus going with software. But don't be afraid to use the tools that are also within the software because you'll be surprised on how well it complements the hardware.
Yeah.
Especially when
That,
you have things like the Mini Freak. When you hook that into the software, it integrates and pulls your sounds from there onto that and vice versa. So, like having these two things hooked up, it's like the perfect marriage between hardware and software. Sonically speaking, I can't tell the difference. I haven't used the software enough to really sit there and discern, but my general perspective being an audiophile who, in audio production degree and all that other stuff and doing music, I can't tell the difference sonically between the hardware digital synthesizer and the hardware or the software digital synthesizer. They did such a good job and the integration is just so great with it. I think a lot of that is where things are gravitating towards as far as the companies go, like Osmos. One of the reasons why we didn't get an Osmos out after the Fantom is needing a new computer because the Osmos, as good as it is, with revolutionized, way of the expressiveness and everything like that, it
mm-hmm.
really isn't a full keyboard slash synthesizer until you dig into the Egan matrix. And the Egan matrix is not only heavily complex, but it's CPU heavy as well. So with the computer that we had, we weren't able to use the
Right.
Egan matrix, which is like 40% of the Osmos. A lot of it is a MIDI controller, but in order to take advantage of the sounds and the synthesizer as a complete piece of hardware, you need to have that interaction. And we knew right away, like, hey, we can't do it with this computer. We're going to have to get a new piece of hardware. And that's the thing. Like, I consider the
Yeah. If
iMac a
there's a
piece of
limit.
hardware. Yeah.
Right. And if there's a limit, we need to address limits. I had the same thing happen too for a long time. I had a MacBook Pro that I was using. It was an older one, and it was extremely.
See, happen again. Both of us? Is it both of
Yeah, I
us?
think I think we lost it again, man. It's crazy because my connection is stable right now on my side, so
Yeah,
that's
mine
kind
is
of
too. And like I was still moving
scary.
while you weren't.
Yeah, I don't even know what's going on with that. But I was just saying I had a laptop that was older. It was a laptop, and it was very reliable. Outperformed all kinds of PC laptops that I had for years and years on end. Really good stuff.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, it was like it couldn't handle the new hardware that was coming out. It couldn't handle some of the new software that was coming out.
Yeah.
And so, I ended up having to like do a serious upgrade. And, thank goodness for, some beautiful benefactors in the form of a sponsor who hooked me up with a new Mac Studio. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Word on that.
Yeah, praise the hardware gods that are out there, right? So, you know,
Yeah, and a lot of things, even if the computer isn't your centerpiece, it's kind of a jack of all trades tool, even if it's the go between or whatever. So like, even if you want to go straight hardware, if you're trying to exist within a space like this, you have to project that somehow, and you need a computer to be able to stream. I mean, you could do it with a straight cell phone. I know Raul lifted noise. He's like the king of cell phone streaming. But and it works out, and that's how we started on the channel. Just using the cell phones that we had with the flagship. You know, ears hear music. Yeah, see, ears hear music, not labels. And that's the thing that I loved the saying at Grey Room Recording Studio. It said our best piece of gear is our ears. And it's because there was a cheaper
yeah,
studio that didn't have a lot of high end equipment, but what they did have was the amount of equipment that they needed to be able to produce really tight sounding industry standard records. And they had the knowledge. The people that worked there were educated, they were in the business, they understood audio production in a real way, and it worked out. It really did. you know this
hmm
is
it did. I know, right?
reading some of the chat, getting caught
Yeah,
up on
yeah.
our friends here. Time to ban
Oh,
us.
oh, Wabbit. Hey, man, it's true, Wabbit. That's what she said, man.
Just get Walmart laptops and that. Yeah, yeah. Just don't get laptop Walmart laptops. Yeah, it's
That's
funny
true.
because my first studio album recorded on my single that I made on that, I borrowed my stepmom's Dell Inspiron, whatever the hell it was. It was really cheap. She got it for, I think it was school or something like that. I put Fruity Loops on it and I made the beat. I made a couple more beats. I took that beat, burned it onto a CD, and there I had it. Took that CD down to the studio, and all I needed to make that, I didn't even have a MIDI controller. It was 2001 or something like that. I didn't even have anything hardware wise, just that computer. And I made it work, and that's what a lot of people
There it
do.
is.
They just make it work. And it wasn't because I had some kind of thing against hardware or software. It's just because the availability. And I think nowadays, like the spoiled comment goes to, is that we're surrounded by so much great hardware and software. We are definitely in a renaissance. And I think that
Yeah,
leads to
yeah.
the emotional argument of it, is that we all are fully aware of where we are at technologically speaking. So there's no reason for us to be shortchanged by these companies who could easily spend
So
an extra $20.
that
You know what I
that
mean?
actually and that actually takes us to a great segue, actually, man. So the question, viral, for you, man, and for everybody else is that okay? So we've got this argument about the hardware. We got this argument about the software. We all know where we kind of stand. We know whether or not we're one way or the other. We know whether we're hybrid. And where does advanced technology fit into this? AI.
That's a good question. And I was actually thinking about revisiting beat making, because we have, what is that, Melody Sauce over here, and there's just everything now. There's AI tools that are built into Logic Pro, all of our software and even our, dare I say it, hardware is starting to get a little AI on us, you know? And
Yeah.
I think the integration of artificial intelligence into our technology is going to shine through in our production hardware. But I also think that the convoluted mess of AI, especially now, because it's one reason when this AI stuff started in our technology for production tools, it really started with Isotope. Isotope were really
Right.
the first
Right.
ones to integrate AI into their software. And I understand this for the time that it was, because this was the exact same time that they rolled out their subscription service and started focusing more on a subscription based model. And we as a channel took advantage of that subscription.
Yeah.
So we
Trust them.
mastered a couple of songs using the AI that was in Isotope. And even though it's a great tool, it
Hmm.
just reminded me of the fact that the AI is tremendously underwhelming in an audio production setting when it comes to mastering.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more.
And the problem is that, you know, what happens to the people who don't have at least a base knowledge on mixing and mastering, who rely on the AI tools to clean up their audio, and then it ends up taking a chunk of sound out of a piece that you can't fix because you don't understand how to isolate it, or whatever the issue is, you know, sonically, you know, not understanding compression, or even limiters, you know,
Yeah.
when
And the
you
order of those chains
of
too, right?
yeah, the
So,
order of those change, yeah, exactly. So AI will just throw in what they think will fit better with the sound, but it's not discerning it from an ear, from a human ear,
right.
you know.
And that's the thing. That's why I have so much like, so guys, I'm gonna tell you right now, I have some knowledge of mastering, but I'm nowhere near where viral is at. And I'm nowhere near. I've got a couple of buddies that do it literally for a living at like Epic. And man, I gotta tell you, like their ear does not miss anything, like anything.
Gets
It's the
the
most amazing thing I've ever witnessed in my life, sitting there watching them do what they do. And I'm like, I already, hey, I don't have the skills for it, but you know, so hat off to you, my brother, because you're pretty dope at it. So
Appreciate you. Yeah,
yes,
we
sir.
were we were having this conversation. I think it was you and I that were having this conversation the other day about AI mastering, and not being able to tell with an ear what you would want or how something is supposed to sound, and being so far off from the actual skill that it takes. And as much of a niche making music and producing music is, it's an even further niche when you start going down to mixing and mastering. But you take out the mixing part of it and you go to the mastering engineers, it is such a small pool of people. And I think that is one of the reasons why they're trying so hard to enter in the AI mastery part of it, so people could have a general education without having a general education. But I think it's creating this reliance on a lack of education. And
Right.
already, you know, when it's attempting to make it work, it's developing these algorithms based on the other AI and the people that use the AI, not the people who are developed in their ears. Like, hey, we got to make this AI sound this, we got to make this. Because how do you do that when every musical circumstance is completely different? Yes, the math works out the way that it does, and in the end it's all just a bunch of mathematical equations and all that other stuff. But depending on the genre, you know, and you know, your ears, you know, how do you get the technology to hear something that only a human ear can hear,
Yeah, that's a fact.
you
And you
know?
know, and Wabbit, you got a cool question, man. Listen, can if AI is used, can it water down music? I think it can.
It has already.
Yeah,
It has already.
yeah, and the reason I say that is because, like, see, if we're not the ones making that decision, you know, it may be basing its decision on, you know, incomplete data sets. You know, and that's me speaking as a, you know, as a person who's a coder or programmer, that, you know, it may not have all the complete information it needs or the experiential data it needs to make the right choice with music. Like,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of the way it's going to mix it and master it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's I don't know. I think that it, you know, it's good. Definitely. The comment was also made. It's good for those who need it, and that's from you, Trusto. And
Yeah.
that's true. That's very true. For a person that's like has no skill sets whatsoever in that realm, that's probably going to make their music at least, you know, 20% better than what it was, right?
Yeah, and I
So,
used to do that in Logic. I used to take
yeah.
the preset channel strips, and that's the kind of like backwards engineering, working your way into learning mastering, go with whatever chain they throw. The problem is with a lot of the AI mastering, it just, you push a button and it's like mastered. It doesn't show you
yeah,
the process
yeah,
through
yeah.
it. It just says, hey, this is what we think hip hop sonics are supposed to. And hip hop is where it fails the most. Hip
Oh yeah,
hop and rock
no,
are both the genres that fail the most. I think AI has a great algorithm for pop, like straight pop, but like for rock and hip hop, it really, really, really struggles.
yeah,
And
great,
I
I
get
agree.
the AI being helpful for those who don't know, um, but when you take the time to understand it more, you will realize how much that AI has taken away from you, your music. You know, if you take the time to learn the things, because AI will put a blanket perspective on your entire song, which is what you're doing with mastering. But with mastering, you're also blanketing and making these parametric EQ dialing in of 1/10 of a dB. You know what I mean? Like,
It's
so
it's it's nuanced. You know what I mean? It's very nuanced.
yeah, and sitting there looking at the way that it's just dialed, and just especially if you're doing it with hardware, you know, doing it with software is still okay, and you could still dial it in the same way. It's just a lot more difficult to get through the overall of what you want it to sound like with AI just doing all the work for mastering. And I think
Yeah.
that's where it has the problem. Oh,
Hey,
hey, yeah,
shout
yeah,
out
my
to
bad.
Eric Davis and Eric. I see your comment too,
Dave,
man.
welcome.
Yeah, word. I see
Thanks, Tyrone.
your comment
Appreciate you.
about AI being a great tool. It's a beautiful tool, and you're right. It really is. In my actual career, my field, I use AI pretty much every day, right? Um, but in a limited capacity though, as it pertains to music, that's the one thing. Because I think like sometimes art is much harder for AI to understand and interpret something that's art. And I don't mean
Yeah,
drawing a picture, art in terms of what we all do.
yeah,
So I think it does have its uses, but for music, I would say limited usage, right? But man, if you're working on some code or you're trying to have it, error check things and things of that nature, man, yeah, AI all day long for me because it's like having a personal assistant with me that double checks my code, make sure my
for
code is tight,
sure.
all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
And the
so I could sit
research
there.
is like having a research assistant. It's
Yeah,
like so
absolutely.
crazy.
That's
It's just like,
exactly what
yo,
it's like
show me
having.
the demographics of this state from this time to this
Yep.
time. And it's just like you don't have to do any of the looking up and going through.
Yep.
I use Chat GPT on my business plan, and it helped. It saved so much time in
Yeah.
developing that business
Yeah. You're
plan
probably
just
like talking
because
probably
using it.
weeks of time.
Yeah,
Weeks of time.
weeks of time, and
You
knocked
know,
out
so
in a straight queue.
yeah. Yep. Yep. And then
And
the
just copied
crazy,
and
yeah,
pasted, and it was like, and
yeah,
it wasn't plagiarism because I literally was trying to find the demographics. There's no differentiating in the data or anything like that. So, but going back to the music part of things, and what I was saying with the AI and Isotope, when I used Isotope, even understanding mixing and mastering from an engineering perspective, um, it came out and it sounded okay in the end project, but it stomped on a lot of sonics that it shouldn't have. But there was no way of it figuring out because it wasn't there. I'm sure if I ran it through that same isotope now, it would have a different algorithmic compression ratio that would not be as detrimental to the overall product.
yeah. And in all fairness, it's getting better
It's
as time
definitely
goes
getting
on.
better. It's
Yeah,
definitely
it's
getting
getting better.
better.
So
That's why I want to take another shot with the AI beat making with Melody Sauce, especially having now having that Arturia fully paid and being able to run that through the MIDI and everything. It's just
mhm.
it's difficult though because that's a melody thing. So clean code party mode.
Yes, indeed, man. Crazy wabbit. I'm telling you, man, that's a fact, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's got its uses.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything to be afraid of as far as the technology goes. I mean, a lot of us are afraid of it for obvious reasons, but as far as taking out the job of like a musician, I think it's so far away from the realms of creativity, even though we have the ability to use these tools within
Right.
our own skill set and what we're doing. It's not going to be the standard to where it's going to replace our ability to affect the techniques that make the music great. It's not
Yeah.
going to be better than what we could do musically. And I think with that, there's no real
We getting a special
reason.
request, man.
What's that?
Tyrone wants me to play some music for. All right, let
Okay.
me see what I
Yeah.
got in the.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
see what I got over here in the heat tank.
Hey, yeah, play that joint you just played. Yeah, I've been gushing over this beat. He's like, it's like, yo, slide me that beat. It's one of those things, when you're an MC and you're like, yo, you
Word.
gotta slide me that beat, and he's like,
That's
man,
what I said. That's what I.
it's already accounted for. And then the next day I'm like, yo, slide me that beat. Let me get a verse. Let me get a verse on that beat. Nah,
So we
man,
gonna.
nah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep trying every day. Yo,
So we
what's
gonna
up with that beat,
what we gonna
son?
do is we gonna release what we gonna release, and then I'm gonna get Viola. He gonna be on a new version of it with me. So, but yo, Eric, you in the house, man?
Yeah.
All right. So Eric Davis, this is for you, brother.
Oh, right when it gets up too. Hold on, we gotta wait for it. You guys good over there? There it goes. Oh damn, man, we lost the whole damn thing. We were all waiting. It was like,
we gonna stop right there.
it's funny because like it stopped right when the beat kicked in, and then like okay, it's gonna pick back up when we waited, and right before you turned it off, it's like so we lost the whole fucking
So
thing.
we did. It didn't
Yeah,
even
the
play.
whole thing. It was like,
Oh, that's crazy.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
I mean, hold on.
yeah. You just Sam Jones that whole
All
thing.
right. So we're gonna try it again. Let's see if we get it through real quick. Okay. All right, we're gonna try to. Hey, sorry about that, Eric. You ready, Viral?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's see if it maintains connection. All right, hang on.
I was feeling it until.
Did we get it that time?
Yeah, we got it.
As
Yo.
it is right now, somewhat unreleased.
And it's funny because I got this song that I'm working on, and it's been like the priority of working on, and I just been knee deep
Appreciate
in
all
it
that.
and everything. And I'm still bugging him about this beat. Like, yo, you don't need 3 verses on that. Just slide me the third one. Okay, you take the last one. Squeeze me in the middle.
Hey, we might as well just go there, and we'll get a little something extra.
Yeah. The gear we love.
Why not? Right? Because why the fuck not? Of course, that's all verse, rabbit. All verse for you, Eric. All verse. All you MCs, let's go. Yeah, so we gonna stop it.
No, mixing it with the mini freak. Yeah, I got the mini freak plugged in, so I'm like, on the drones. Yeah, see,
Yeah, no doubt.
this is the classic example here. This thing. Let's see if I can pull it. Oh, I don't think I can pull it out that far. The Mini Freak. I love this piece of gear. Is nice and affordable. I loathe mini keys, but this is such a good mini keyboard, mini synthesizer. It's really got me playing the keys, and not only that, they had this huge 3.0 update, adding the granular. That's the thing about it. Not all these companies, and even the companies that are doing, meh, shaky stuff, with their equipment or whatever, they still have their wins. Roland may have screwed the pooch on their Fantom, but they have done great things with their other gear. Maybe not the SH4D, but, they've done great work on certain things, and the TR is one of them. What does that mean?
Right?
So, it's dope, to have companies like Arturia that, even though people didn't like the Astrolab being a keyboard for performance and stuff, they wanted it something more as a kind of a workstation. Maybe they're still coming out with that. It's good to see these companies who maybe not have been around as long. I mean, Arturia's on their, I think, 25-year anniversary, so it's like half the time that Roland has been out for. But just to see these companies excel and do this great work, like just since getting the Key Lab, got the Mini Freak, the V collection, the FX collection, and it's crazy. It's such a good thing here. I'm echoing over here.
Are you really?
Yeah. What are you messing with on your settings? See, that's what's messing with it.
No. What I'm trying to do is figure out what's going on. Why we keep on losing our connection with Zoom. I don't know what's going on, but I have it's a solid connection. So
Yeah,
I was just
good.
checking in the background. Actually, my network.
So if I guess it's imparting wisdom time here, since this conversation, we'll probably have it again. Like I said, I want to keep a consistent basis going on a Sunday thing. Sunday. Get it? Sunday. So it's going to be Sundays.
Y'all saw what Viral did with that, man? He was a little clever with that, man.
Yeah, it's going to be Sundays is how we're going to do it here. So yeah, we'll be talking about something else, and still this conversation is going to exist then too, and it'll exist long after, and it's just going to keep existing as long as there's stuff to exist out there, and as long as there's music to be made, there's ways to make it, and as long as there's ways to make it, there's people out there that help us make it in different ways, and those people are corporations.
So I don't have a lot of good parting wisdom, but I will say this, man. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah, so we'll probably try to set it up around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, Pacific Standard Time, every Sunday. We will have our discussion lined up and what it's going to be about, but we don't do much talking here in this space as far as this channel goes, so I think this will be the good time to talk, because you and I can carry on conversations, especially when it comes to this music thing, for hours on end. So it's good to involve everybody else in these conversations, because we all have these conversations too on a regular basis. And the gear thing, the G.A.S thing, it's technology is a forever changing thing, and so's music and what's popular out here. It's just, I get the emotional drive and the element to be considered, especially when you're dumping your life savings into equipment that doesn't get you anywhere musically. Don't do that. Just try to get along with what you have. And, I guess the best thing I could say here is try to be very specific in what your needs are, musically.
Definitely.
you understand what you need to produce musically. So don't let these companies, especially these legacy corporations, talk you into affecting a purchase that you otherwise wouldn't have. And don't let these content creators out here judge you or criticize you or say that you're not professional enough to use the equipment that they're not even
Yeah.
qualified to handle themselves.
Yeah. And look, we're not gonna mention any names either, but I mean, look, hold up, Byron, we gotta look at the camera for this one. You know who you are. You know who you are. And we know who you are. It's like, no,
And
I mean,
you know the we know that
you
you know that we
know
know.
that we know who you are, right? But no, on the real, guys, look, thanks, guys. You guys are awesome, man. And, I really appreciate Viral allowing me to jump in his space before we launch our channel. Of course, I'm going to have
This is
him
our space,
go
man.
over our space.
Yeah, it's funny because like like I said, we just talk
All right.
about this stuff and we're like,
Yeah.
hey, let's go live with this. And it's like,
Yeah.
hey, well, let's just make a regular thing out of it. So each week it will be a different conversation, but Sundays will be
No
allocated
doubt.
for
No
our
doubt.
yap, and
That's all love.
we'll be talking about the music thing. And we got other conversations to go through for next week. And yeah, we'll keep that there, for the
We trying to get all the smoke with some of those conversations, brother. I ain't gonna even lie, guys. It's about to be there. We all gonna be, and we hope you join us and be in the heat tank with us because we got some fiery conversations coming up. But
yeah, because next week's going to be about content creators in this music space.
Look, we really do appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for your time, man. Y'all could have been anywhere else, but like Viral always like say you chose this spot, right? So, and then I was gonna also just say that, look, guys, about the gear, please, when you get your gear, just remember why you got it. Have fun. Have fun.
Yeah, and if you're trying to make music on a professional level, and get it out there like that, there's a way to do that, and it's really easy in comparison to the way that things have been, to obtain the information you need. We got a lot of friends out here, within the space, within just this channel alone, and I appreciate people like Tyrone, who's just been super, super supportive of this channel, and
Super generous guy.
and everybody else on here who's been in the chat talking
It's
about
all
this
love.
madness and moving forward. And we hope to see you guys here in the future when we do these Sundays episodes.
And Eric Davis, I want to hear some of your music, man. I want to hear some of those beats, dog.
Yeah. Just don't let anybody discourage you, and don't let any company or piece of equipment deter you from what your objectives are, and making music. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not good enough or your gear is not good enough, because if you have speech, your gear is good enough. You know what I mean? If you can't sing or rap or whatever, you could snap your fingers. You could do something. Spoon Man got real big in the early '90s.
Get that vocoder, do some of that auto tune, man. You'll be just right.
Yeah,
Good to go.
it doesn't take much, and maybe we could touch down on that eventually. The budget gear versus the Dream Studio.
Oh yeah. Let's do that.
acquisition,
Let's do that. That would be a dope one.
Yeah, there's just so many conversations.
Guys
here.
want to hear that one?
What's that?
I said, guys, let us know if y'all want to hear that one. The Dream gear versus the budget gear, and we'll do that conversation too. So
yeah, for sure. All right, so here we go. Appreciate you guys. Oh man, Tyrone, always with the sneak attack. Tyrone with the sneak. Okay. I appreciate you, man. I really do. And you know where it goes. It just goes back in here to keep recycling this stuff and or keep cycling cycling through whatever's next on that. So we'll definitely be doing that moving forward. And yeah, man.
You can't get a pro job in music. You got to get a job.
Yeah, so as far as gear, these companies go, the Sonics and the Gas, it's really up to us. We are smarter than your average bear when it comes to us as consumers. We all have different dreams, hopes, aspirations, and all that other stuff when it comes to the motivations behind, doing this music thing, and we're here to lean on each other, and if you guys do have some of this gear acquisition syndrome, hopefully this conversation has been helpful to that effect because, we got problems, and eventually we'll have the autism conversation and the spectrum and all that, but we gotta set aside some time to do that down the road. We're just getting started here. And yeah, appreciate you guys. Make sure you leave a like on your way out. Subscribe if you're not subscribed to the channel. And we'll keep you pushing. Join us next week for another episode of Sundays. And I'll make some graphics and do all that stuff for it. Anything you want to say before heading out of here? And appreciate you guys, really. Really do.
Big ups to everybody. And you guys, we hope you have a great week. And be safe out there, okay? Take care, man.
Definitely. Appreciate you guys. Love y'all. Take care, everybody.
2 fingers.